When we say broke is you're just making enough to take care of your basics. You're probably subsidizing your lifestyle with credit cards. You're drowning deeper and deeper into debt. You have outstanding student loans that you're trying to pay off. You have you've created this image of yourself, and you're trying to maintain that standard. There are characteristics that make you middle class, so to speak. All right. We've talked about high income earners are widely considered middle class. High income earners. So there are low income earners and high income earners. Now, high income earners are, and we're going to talk about this, the most deceived set of people. $100,000 was considered a big deal. 6 figures. 6 figures was a big deal because back then you could afford a lot with 6 figures. That's not the norm. That's not reality right now.
He says something. You are not broke. You are having cash flow issues.
Yeah.
That was where I said, whoa. So it's not, they are not poor, but they are broke because they are simply having cash flow.
I may have a different definition to what most people consider middle class. I believe there are 2 words. There is a word for the rich and everyone else. So I would say everyone else is the middle class.
Hello, viewers. Welcome once again to the Wisdom Bank podcast studio, where we deliver educative, inspiring, and motivational subjects covering finance, marriage, relationship, and growth, mindset growth building. So we are an educative podcast, and today I'm so happy, so excited. Oh my goodness, to be in the studio with Mr. Bruno. Mr. Bruno, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me. The Wisdom Bank podcast has become second home to me, so I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Thank you so much. You know, any new subscriber coming in, who is Bruno?
Bruno is an enthusiast in finance, healthcare, and mindset. Any area of personal development is where I want to find myself in.
Wow. I love that so much. You've impacted me in so many different ways. I'm your student, and I'll forever be your student. So today we're going to be touching a very, very sensitive and a very, very important topic. The middle class. Politics, family, friends. We just talk about the middle class. Many people hear about the middle class when someone is running maybe for office and stuff like that. They are trying to okay, we want to help the middle class and stuff like that. Can you define what's the middle class?
I may have a different definition to what most people consider middle class. I believe there are 2 words. There is a word for the rich and everyone else. So I would say everyone else is the middle class. It used to be a dollar amount. It used to be a dollar amount attached to it, where if you earn from this amount to this amount, you're considered, poor. You're considered, you earn from this amount, you're considered middle class, upper middle class, lower middle class. Now we're just gonna put everyone in one basket.
The middle class.
Middle class. So that is why you don't hear politicians or whoever is campaigning talk about poor. We're talking to the poor now. They say we're addressing the middle class, which they categorize as everyone else, which in my opinion is the most honest thing to say, because you're either rich or you're not in this time and age. You're either wealthy or you're in the middle class. So I would not associate a dollar amount to it, because there are people in their millions who are quote unquote middle class.
Now, I love the way you separate that. You are either rich or you are poor, or you're in the middle. Or let's put it in the middle class.
You're either wealthy or you're in the middle class.
All right. Setting that foundation is very, very important. Now, those in the middle class are kind of trapped. Because when you expand the definition you gave, you are either rich or you are,
You're either wealthy,
wealthy.
because there's a difference between being rich and being wealthy.
That's true.
You're either wealthy or you're in the middle class.
Or you're in the middle class.
Mm.
But now, in that middle class, I want you to go in there and break the different ranks. Because in one way or the other, just like the wealthy people, right? They are also in their own bracket. But today we'll be focusing more on the middle class. Break down some of those ranks that are within the middle class and how in that same rank they impact or affect each other.
So this how I'm gonna put it. There are characteristics that make you middle class, so to speak. All right. We've talked about high income earners are widely considered middle class. High income earners. So there are low income earners and high income earners. Now, high income earners are, and we're going to talk about this, the most deceived set of people. I used to be one, so I know. High income earners, it used to be back in the, at least for me, 2018, 2016, 17, 18, all the way to like 2020, making $100,000 was considered a big deal. Six figures. Six figures was a big deal because back then you could afford a lot with six figures. That's not the norm. That's not reality right now. Six figures is kind of considered minimum wage, especially given the lifestyle that we're living, that we're accustomed to, that that income made us accustomed to. So we would say if you're making enough to take care of your basic needs, probably save a little, probably take a vacation or two in a year, live a comfortable life, so to speak. You're considered, you're in the middle class, of course, probably upper middle class, depends on income. But the reason we say the middle class are the most deceived set of people is because you make enough to survive, but not enough to take a back seat and have the financial freedom, as we put it, because you're literally tied to working and exchanging your time for money, which means you can't take a vacation, a long vacation, of course. You can't just take 2 months off. You would have to work extra hard and save up for 2 months, then take 2 months off, is what I mean.
Wow.
Which means you can't go past 2 months. Your bank account determines how long your vacation is. All right. Your savings and no investment determine how long your vacation is. So you're making enough to pay your bills, take care of the basics and maybe save a little. But the majority of what we consider middle class these days, because of their lifestyle inflation, lifestyle, crip, they barely make enough to save or invest. Right? They are the most deceitful people because if their income disappears, they go bankrupt real fast.
Is the middle class disappearing?
I think for anyone who, yes, definitely, because they used to be poor, lower middle class, upper middle class. I wouldn't say disappearing, but the luxury that came behind calling yourself middle class doesn't exist anymore.
Wow.
Yeah.
What are those luxuries? Can you name some of the luxuries that were attached to the term middle class?
Yeah.
Or that is still,
I mentioned a couple of them. Anyone making six figures was considered high income earner. Anyone making 100,000 and up was considered, high income earner. Compared to someone making 50 grand or $35,000 a year, you would consider, say, you were living in a modest apartment, you were driving a modest car, you were dressing modestly, you were not going out as much, you were not showing off, so to speak, because you were making way more, right? You were considered middle class. But now, because everyone wants to level up, you want to live in a bigger house, you want to drive a bigger car, you want to dress better, you want to be considered wealth rich, so to speak. You
Right.
want to be respected in the community, so you got to live up that
expectation,
so to speak. So you exhaust everything you're earning. All right. So you don't have that leverage anymore, so to speak. You don't have that leverage of investing. You don't have that leverage of that cushion, that came with making six figures. And so I know, because a lot of my clients, I have a lot of high net worth income earners, medical doctors, engineers, you name it, bank managers, who make considerably a lot of money, 250,000 even up to like $500,000, who are broke.
Really?
I say broke because now I didn't say they're poor.
Yes.
They're broke.
Yeah.
Right?
I totally understand that,
Definitely.
because I was doing a research, right? Les Brown, he says something. You are not broke. You are having cash flow issues.
Yeah.
That was where I said, "Whoa." So it's not they are not poor, but they are broke because they are simply having cash flow. I want you to go detail into that.
So when we say broke, is you're just making enough to take care of your basics. You're probably subsidizing your lifestyle with credit cards. You're drowning deeper and deeper into debt. You have outstanding student loans that you're trying to pay off. You have you've created this image of yourself, and you're trying to maintain that standard, to where if there is an occasion or there is an invitation coming, they already know Bruno is gonna contribute $1,000. Maybe Bruno cannot afford $1,000 right now, but because Bruno already painted a picture of I can afford $1,000, that's the expectation, and because your ego wouldn't let you accept when you cannot afford it, you're still trying to keep up that image. So of course you overspend, and you're drowning deeper and deeper into debt. So when I say I have high income earners at 500,000, even close to $1,000,000, because there are professionals that earn up to $1,000,000 if they're good at what they do. They're broke because their lifestyle consumes almost everything they make, and then the bigger unspoken um, aspect of being in the middle class or high income earner is how much taxes you pay.
I don't. You're already taking me. I have a question that I want you to respond to. Then we touch on that.
Okay.
Yes. And that question is, do the middle class build wealth?
They can. They can build wealth. If they put a couple of things together, they can build wealth.
What are those things that they need to put together to build wealth?
You have to live below your means. And I don't know how brutal I can be about this. If it means selling the home you live in right now that is costing you way more than it's supposed to, do it.
Wow.
The problem is, are you going to do it? The problem is, can you take away your ego and be honest with yourself and your family to say, you know what, we cannot afford this $500,000 house. We got to move to a smaller house, right? So we can live below our means, so we can have enough cushion or enough leverage to pay off debt, come out of debt, then start investing and building wealth. So they can build wealth. The reason why they don't, and most of them do not end up doing that, is because if you have nothing at the end of the day to save or invest, you can't build wealth.
Wow.
So because if your lifestyle already consumes everything you make, then you don't have extra money to do that, right? You don't have extra money to start a business with. You don't have extra money to invest. You don't have extra money to save. You don't have extra money for anything else. So if you can figure out, if you can, first of all, live below your means. Second thing I would say is be honest about your budget. I've mentioned this. A budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went.
Define that again.
So a budget is boring to most people because they think of a budget as sitting down to track every single thing they spend money on, and it's a boring process. They would rather not do it. They would rather ignore that piece of it. In one of our shows, we said people lie, numbers don't lie.
That's
a
true.
budget is looking at the numbers because the numbers do not lie. A budget is saying we're going to spend money on this, this, and this. This is where our money is going to go, and anything out of that budget is not going to be spent on. It's not. There is a money you allocate for miscellaneous, things you're not
Right.
unforeseen things.
Yeah.
But anything beyond that, we're not gonna spend money on. That's where discipline has to come in. Right. So a budget is very important. I said a budget is telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. Because at the end of the day, most middle class, and I used to be there. I can speak on this.
Right.
Ed Milet said, "You are the best person to help the version you used to be."
You are the best.
You are the best person equipped to help the person you used to be.
Wow. Why so?
Because I used to be there. I used to live in that fictional world where I was making high income and I assumed I was okay. Until reality hit me when I lost one of my jobs. All right. And then the lifestyle I had built, Right?
Had to drop.
I could not accommodate it because I had 2 jobs at the time. When I lost one job was not, and what, keep in mind, I was making, both jobs were paying me 6 figures each. But because I lost one job, I could not afford my lifestyle anymore, even though I was still making 6 figures with one job. Because what most people cannot control is lifestyle inflation. When you start making more, you start spending more.
Define what you mean by lifestyle inflation.
Lifestyle inflation is simply a situation where you consume every extra dollar you make. What I mean is, when you were making $50,000 a year, you built a life around $50,000 a year.
Mm-hmm.
You had a small apartment, you were driving a decent car, you were dressing okay. Life was okay at $50,000 a year. What happens to most people when they start earning more? You start making $100,000. In your mind, you have extra 50,000. Why should it just be going towards or sitting in a savings when I could upgrade my house? It used to be an apartment. Now let me buy a home,
Right.
which is totally fine. Now you buy a home, but you don't buy a home you can afford. You buy a home you want to impress people with. So you go
Wow.
beyond your budget. Then you used to drive a Toyota. Now it's about time I drive a Lexus. Come on. Let me
BMW.
drive a BMW. Let me drive a Mercedes. So I'm going to go, and in the US, I can finance it.
Right.
So you go finance it. Now your phone, you used a Samsung Galaxy, whatever. Now you want to upgrade to a Flip, which is totally fine. But inflation is those steps, those upgrades you make over time. And then you wake up one day and $100,000 that used to be a lot of money is no longer enough, because you now have to subsidize it with credit cards, because your lifestyle has now caught up to $100,000. So you need extra income to survive. And that's where most people will now resort to doing some extra jobs here and there, side gigs, and or getting a second job. Right? So
wow.
if you live below your means, it means when you start making 100,000, try as much as you can to maintain your lifestyle at $50,000.
Even if you have had that upgrade,
Even if you have
to like 100,000, so still do everything if you want to build wealth to stay within that 50,000, and then invest
the difference.
That's how you'll be able to build.
That's how you build wealth. If you can, they say delayed gratification.
Right.
I'm not saying don't upgrade your lifestyle.
Right.
I'm saying upgrade it accordingly. In Rich Dad Poor Dad, I think it's that book, Rich Dad Poor Dad. I don't think it's that book. It's probably a different book, but yeah, I think it's Rich Dad Poor Dad. He said if he wants to buy a car, he creates cash flow that would pay for the car. So what I mean is, if you're making that extra money, put it in an asset that can generate cash flow. You use the cash flow to upgrade your lifestyle with. That way you're not losing your principal.
Right.
Yep. That's how you build wealth over time. So if you can be patient enough, delay 5 years, delay 10 years, and put that money to use, then let that money speed up dividends that can fund your lifestyle. So you see a couple of people, Warren Buffett can afford to do whatever he wants right now, buy whatever car he wants right now, because he was able to delay gratification for over 40 years.
11 years, and the guy hit the jackpot at what, 60 something? He
drove the same car for almost 30 years.
The guy has not changed his house.
He still lives in the same house from
back then.
How many people can do that?
Man.
How many people can live in the same home for more than 50 years, 60 years, despite all the billions that he has? About 1% of people can do that.
So can we say the middle class lack discipline?
Of course, discipline is the engine that runs everything else. Right? It's discipline. It's can I resist doing this thing long enough?
Wow.
To when I can.
So which means that most middle class, does it mean that we don't understand compounding, or is because the ego that is in the middle class kills our ability in wealth creation?
Well, you can't talk about compounding without a time factor to it. Compounding takes time. It's the patience. Can you be patient enough to let compounding do its magic? All right. And so we know what compounding is. I think most people understand what compounding is. The real lack is, can you be patient enough to let compounding do what it does best? In the first 2 years, 5 years, even 10 years, you may not see a lot,
right,
when you're compounding. the real compounding happens 15, 20, 30 years after. So my question is, can you wait 15 years? Can you wait 20 years? Because that is the trend with anyone who has built substantial wealth. Is the sort of delayed gratification, compounding, but it doesn't happen overnight, and it's not going to happen overnight. That's why any get-rich-quick scheme almost always fails.
You know, I think, was it yesterday? We're talking about using the stairs and elevator.
Yeah.
So, can we say the middle class, they use more elevators? And the 1% over and they're using the stairs?
Well, they use an illusional elevator.
Wow.
Because like we said,
differentiate that.
There is no elevator to success. Everyone has to take the stairs. Because the stairs are going to teach you resilience, persistence, consistency, patience. They're going to teach you discipline. You can't learn those things by trying to get rich quick.
Wow.
That's why we find most young people, so to speak, when I say young people, I mean their 40s, 30s, 20s, they would rather gravitate towards cryptocurrency because it promises quick gains. They would rather go do day trading because it promises quick gains. All right. When I talk to them about investing, using the S&P 500 index funds, to them it's boring. It's gonna take years. I don't have years. I want to enjoy it right now. And I'm not telling you not to enjoy. I'm saying if you structure your finances properly, there should be a bucket. And when I teach financial planning, so to speak, there's a bucket for everything. There's a bucket for spending. That's your do whatever you want bucket. There's a bucket for that because you can't just sacrifice everything and wait 15 years. Right. There should be a bucket aside for whatever I want to do with this. If you're budgeted correctly, right? Expenses, savings, emergency, investing, then fun.
Contingency fund.
So use the fun bucket to do whatever you want to do with it.
Wow.
But if you have already taken care of the basics of everything else. So we do understand compounding, but I believe it's the lack of discipline and or patience or delayed gratification that makes a lot of people in the middle class not build the wealth that would, enable them to live a life worthy of, celebration, so to speak.
Now, when you look at the middle class, you discover that there's these vehicles. In our last episode, if you haven't watched our previous episode where we're discussing about wealth building, we mentioned a very, very important fact there. Mr. Bruno, I want you to dive deep here. There are two players currently right now in the market which either hurts the middle class and will either help the middle class if they understand how to leverage on it. Inflation and taxes. I want you to go deep into that.
So, first of all, let's define inflation. I think this word gets thrown around. Most people don't fully understand it. So inflation is the rise in cost of goods and services. So, for example, if a gallon of, we can see inflation play out right now as we speak. The economy we live in. This is 2026, by the way. I don't know if you're listening in 2080, but this is May of 2026, and in February of this year, this is just 3 months after. In January or February of this year, a liter of gas cost, I'm gonna say $2.50, $2.24, for example, $2.50. Right now, it costs $4.
$4.19.
So that is a pure explanation of inflation, right? So, for example, if you saved 250 cents in January in your bank account, and you go right now to your same bank account and pull out the 250 cents, you cannot afford gas. It's the same gas, it's the same money, but you cannot afford it. But if you grew the same 250 cents, let's say the price increased by 30%, it means your money, your 250 cents must have grown by the same 30% if you want to afford gas right now. So the mistake a lot of people in the middle class make is that they don't understand inflation and how it eats up at the value of the money. So they have the money sitting in bank accounts and or portfolios that do not grow with or above inflation. So you notice that over time, you're actually losing buying power, right? That's in the simplest form of what inflation is. and how it ends up hurting you instead of helping you. So the solution to that, of course, is find portfolios that can grow your money above or with inflation. So inflation is currently at 2.833% as we speak. I think 3.8% or so. Your money should be growing above 3.8%, right? Because everything else is increasing at that, at that rate. So you should be growing your money at 3.8 or more to keep up with inflation. Anything below that, you're losing the value of your money. And because most people in the middle class prefer dumping their money where they can see it. I can say this because I used to be one. You want to open your bank account and see the numbers in there, and that gives you some sense of satisfaction, so to speak.
You remember the last show you mentioned that an average individual visit his card, was it how many times?
The bank account.
Yes, bank account.
They open the bank account multiple times a day. I would dare to say not less than 100 times a day.
Open it and close it.
Just open to see the numbers, make them feel good. They close it, then they open it again, close it, open. Just that dopamine of, I just want to see that my money is in my bank account.
There's this show that Dangote was there. He said, "Am I really a rich man?" And then Dangote went and withdraw 10 million. You've heard it, right? Yeah. He withdrew 10 million. Then when would it? Just to see it. And when I listened to that, while preparing for this, I said, the middle class, we love to see things. We love to, when I step out on my driveway, I see the Benz there, I see
my big mansion.
It's my big mansion. The truck is there. We want to see things. Now, it takes me to this second part, which I want you to dwell on. How do the rich shift the tax burden to the middle class? And the middle class, by paying the taxes, they are also helping those at the bottom. Then at the end of the day, the middle class are left helpless. Go deep into that.
So we talked about inflation. Second is taxes. Because the more money you make, the more taxes you pay. Especially if your primary source of income is employment from an employer, so to speak. So I may not be exact on the percentages, but I can give you an example just to kind of, paint a picture of it. So someone making $100,000 a year takes home $70,000. So your take home at the end of the day is $70,000. On paper, you sign a contract for $100,000, but at the end of the day, after taxes and whatever deductions, you end up with maybe $65,000 or $40,000 or $70,000. That in practice means you paid 30% disappeared
in taxes.
So 30% went somewhere to the IRS. All right. So imagine that for a second. Now imagine someone else, let's say a business owner, makes the same $100,000. They have more tax advantages because they could deduct expenses and all whatnot. So while you pay 30%, they can legally pay $0 in taxes because they can justify where all the money went. Now this is your employer, by the way. They pay you $100,000. The IRS takes 30%, but they can write off because you are an expense to them. So they can write off every single check they wrote to all employees plus other expenses,
and they claim
they end up with $0 in tax liabilities. Because this is how I understand taxes anyway. I'm not a tax expert, but I've done a lot of studies in that arena just for personal development and knowledge. This is how I look at it. The IRS has tax codes. Most of them, the majority, about 90% of tax code is to show you how to avoid paying taxes. It means if you want to avoid paying taxes, go to the IRS. They have all the different tax codes that can help you avoid paying taxes. It means if you do this, we're going to give you a tax break. If you do this, we're going to give you a tax break. So most business owners understand that because you're providing a need that a system requires, which is employment. So we can provide employment, and the IRS stipulates that, we can give you a lot of tax breaks if you provide employment, right? If you buy a car that weighs, I don't want to misquote this. I think there's a couple £1,000 of a car. If you buy a car that weighs, for example, 3,600 pounds,
Right.
you can write off. You can write off a portion or at least the entire amount. Some tax experts, if they understand, those tax advantages, they can help you do that. So when you look at the tax advantages available to the business owner or to the employer, so to speak, everyone else, which we now consider middle class, are left with the burden of funding the system, which is taxes. All right. So you're paying 30% on someone else who is making significantly way more than you, 10 times more than you, is paying almost nothing. And I can see the difference because I used to be on the other side of the coin, paying ridiculous amounts of taxes. And when I flipped over to becoming a more a business owner, so to speak, I have way more tax breaks, way more tax advantages than when I was working or when I was making high income. Yeah. So that's the difference. Taxes.
Taxes is very. Remember, in our previous show, we didn't mention the fact that there are different vehicles that we need to leverage on so as to amass wealth, right? Now, as we are wrapping this up, what are the habits and what are the books you can encourage a middle class to read and the habits to practice in building wealth?
I think most of the work is gonna deal with your mindset. And they say if you want to change your life, you change your mind. If I go recommend finance books and you go start reading numbers, it's probably not gonna do a lot. You're gonna be bored in no time. So I would say you work on your mindset because once you understand that it takes a different mindset altogether to build wealth. You can justify a couple of things because we want to be logical and we want to do things that are that are time tested, so to speak. So I read autobiographies. If your intention is to build wealth, read about people who have already done that. What they say, how do they think, how do they process information, what do they do with their time, with their money, where do they direct their focus, right? Study them. That is enough proof of what you should be doing. So I recommend books on. There's a book there's a book called No, sorry. There's a book called Secrets of the Millionaire Mind.
Yes.
Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, in my opinion, is one of the best books on family patterns, financial, upbringing, origins, minds. Because if you can't handle all that, if you grew up in a family where you were spenders, I can't just show up on Zoom and say stop spending and you just do it.
That's
It's
true.
embedded in your DNA.
It's a pattern.
So you have to identify that pattern
and break
and
it.
then intentionally break it. Then you can start building. So if you just do surface level work, it's not gonna yield the amount of result that it should. So Secrets of the Millionaire Mind, The Richest Man in Babylon, I'm gonna recommend those.
Yes.
Rich Dad Poor Dad, you get to understand exactly what we're talking about. Upbringing, who you listen to, the people you grew up around, how do they influence you? Rich Dad Poor Dad, for sure. I wrote a book called Unstuck.
Oh,
A very tiny book.
very tiny book.
You can read it in probably 2 hours or less.
Fast reader.
Unstuck.
Fast reader can,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Those are some of the books I would recommend. Mindset books, not really financial books, so to speak, but mindset books more.
Why would you want to build wealth, but you focus on the mind? Why so?
Because of what we talked about earlier, discipline. Discipline is a mind game. It's not physical, so to speak, because it's the mindset to delay gratification and the mindset to be patient and to not, deter the plan when things are not aligning. Because one thing I can assure you is that for you to be successful in any arena, there are going to be trying times. There are going to be seasons where you're tempted. You're challenged. Life is going to throw rocks at you.
Right.
You don't have the right mindset, a strong enough mindset, mental toughness, as we call it. You're going to falter. You're going to deter. You're going to quit. That's why people start and then stop. Because if you don't have the right mindset to start with, you're not going to follow through. That's why gyms are so lucrative. because they know people are going to start and then stop. And then let me use that metaphor. Gyms have a rule. You can't cancel your gym membership online. You can't cancel the gym membership. You must cancel in person. All right. And so gyms are getting richer because a lot of people have gym subscriptions and they never go to the gym.
Right.
Because you start, then after 2 weeks, you stop. But the burden of driving to that gym, the shame of going in to say, I want to cancel my gym membership, it works in they understand that. So they know very few people are going to come in to cancel. And when you call them on the phone, they cannot cancel it. You have to come in person. And very few people are going to do that. So month after month after month, you keep paying your membership and you're not going. So the people who actually maximize that membership are the discipline. Is the one who's going to show up. My body aches. I don't want to do this, but you're going to show up anyway.
I need to.
You're going to keep showing up anyway. So it's the mind.
Wow.
It's psychology.
The Bible says in Romans 12, I love reading from verse 1, 2, and 3. It says, be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind.
Exactly.
The mind is very, very powerful. Dear viewers, we have come to the end of this episode. Mr. Bruno, thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you. And it's my earnest prayer that God really, really bless you.
Amen.
You've been an impact to me and to the Wisdom Bank podcast. So I don't take that lightly. So I really want to sincerely say thank you. And for any new subscriber, thank you. And if you're returning, we still say thank you. This is a community we're trying to build. You can be a guest or you can bring your guest. So we are open. And once again, thank you. And until then, see you.